There you are.
Ah, there he is.
Full screen.
I don't know.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
You remember Brian?
Hey, of course, Brian. How are you?
I am incredible.
Thank you for setting us up here. That's wonderful.
I was just crawling on the floor underneath it, trying to get it to work.
Yeah,
Is this kind of how you want it?
this is perfect. As long as I can see your hand and hear you, everything is fine.
Okay.
Dr. Sabre, do you mind if she records this for use?
Not at all. Actually, I'm recording it, and I can share a link with you if you want me to. It's probably easier.
Excellent.
Or I can give you rights to record. Give me 1 second. Let's see. I know there's a way of giving you rights to record. Just forget.
There's a record button.
I am recording currently, and I can share that link once it's recorded, or I
Okay.
can give you the rights to record yourself. Just forget how to do that.
We just send her the link. That'll be fine.
Is that okay?
That way she
Yeah,
can refer
that's
back to
great.
it as she works on her own.
Perfect. Right on. Thank you, Brian.
I will say goodbye. I'm going in my office.
All right.
Enjoy.
So, before we get started, tell me real quick, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Once again, music's rescued me.
Mhm. Right?
The pandemic and being isolated, especially losing the symphony chorus, was devastating.
Yeah.
And I finally turned a corner and went, well, I'm going to learn piano music instead. And so it's really helped my frame of mind, and therefore it's helped my health.
That's awesome. You look great, by the way. You look really good.
Oh, thank you.
Hmm.
So do you.
I'm in Mexico City, spending time with my mother. Did I tell you that?
Oh, no. And how is she?
She's okay. She's had a couple of issues. She has COPD, which is a pulmonary disease.
Which puts her at very high risk.
Yeah, so we have to be really, really careful here. So, and she lives by herself. She's 84, and she refuses to have anyone else live with her. So, I needed to come down here and just help her straighten a couple of things out.
And I'm glad you could do that.
Yeah, me too. And with the pandemic, one of the few silver linings on it is that I can teach from wherever I want. I mean, I can be anywhere as long as I have a piano, right? Which I do.
Right,
As
right.
long as I have a piano, then we can teach pretty much from anywhere.
Good. Well, you tell her hello from me.
I will for sure. Absolutely. I'll be happy to. She'll be happy to know it. So, tell me what you want to focus on.
Well, what has happened, I decided to learn this prelude and fugue.
Hmm.
I did it poorly when I was a teenager, and I mean very poorly.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to learn it and learn it well
Hmm.
and learn it professionally. And I've been working very hard at it, but there comes a point in my study of these pieces where all I've got is myself, listening to myself and trying to figure out what my problem is.
Hmm.
And so what I need is someone else to listen to it and say, aha, this is how you could make it better. Because eventually I just hit a wall and I keep playing it the way that I play it.
Hmm.
And one of the problems that I have in both of them, really, the prelude and the fugue, is getting them up to speed. As soon as I get them up to speed, I lose all the clarity and I get nervous, I get tense and tight, and then everything runs together and it doesn't sound as it should
Right.
in my ear.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I can tell myself, well, play with more clarity, but I don't know how to play with more clarity and build up speed at the same time.
Mhm.
So that's one of the main issues in both of them.
Mhm.
As always, because I'm spastic, I have tight and tense wrists.
Mhm.
So I was hoping that you can give me some exercises or some things to play,
Yeah.
or maybe I should play some different things between. So practice this and then play something else so that I can rest
Hmm.
the set of muscles that I'm using for the prelude and fugue
Sure.
and do another piece of music. I have been working on other things too. I don't know what you're going to suggest.
Yeah.
Um,
Tell me what else you're working on besides the Bach.
I am trying to learn Waltz Romantique, um, Debussy.
Hmm.
Um, the issue that I'm having with that, and I would have loved to bring that one in today too, is pedaling.
Hmm.
I'm not able to, what do you call it, move my ankle up and down. So when I pedal, my whole foot needs to come off the ground to pedal.
Yes. Sure.
Well, when I'm pedaling
Uh-huh.
and I have this, you
Yeah.
don't want that to run together in the pedal, right?
Right.
So do you know what I mean? So I don't want that F natural and that E
Yep.
to
Yep.
sound like that.
Sure.
So I've been working on the pedaling, and then instead of playing it, when I play it like a young student. Um,
By the way, you don't sound like a young student. You sound like a professional. You sound really good.
so what I'm trying to do is try to hear the long musical line
Mhm.
instead of going, oh wow, I got through that measure. Oh good, I got through that measure.
Everything I
I,
just heard right now, I like how you're playing a bass note and your accompaniment is nice and light. The balance between right hand and left hand is really good. It's very musical. I like everything that I'm hearing. I can't see your feet very well, but it doesn't sound like you're blurring too many things together. It sounds,
well, it may be something that I just have to put up with, but my whole foot has to come off the piano, and I have to move it from my knee.
yeah.
So it doesn't look good.
Um,
I don't care about that as long as the music sounds good.
so we win some battles, we lose some battles, right? I mean,
Right.
what are we gonna
And
do?
I'm hoping that I can at least play the piece so that it sounds really nice. And if it doesn't look nice, so what? Hopefully, people will stare at my dog instead of my feet um, as I pedal. You know,
Sure,
that's what she's there for.
totally,
That's what
totally.
she's there for.
Oh,
Um,
good.
so I'm just trying to get a longer line.
Hmm.
And the other problem I'm having with that piece is that it requires large hands, which I have, but
Hmm.
I also will get sore from those very, very large octaves. And and it's a soreness that goes away, but I wondered what to do about that. That's something that's kind of new that I haven't experienced, and it will happen anytime I'm playing large octave Chopin. If I do it for a long time, and God knows I practice for a long time when I get started.
Sure. So the secret is, or maybe not the secret, but the idea is to not keep your the distance of the octave locked for too long. Even if I don't play the piano, if I just do this and I hold this for a minute or 2 minutes, my arm is going to tell me, "Hey, something is not right." So you have to play and relax, right? So you have to let go of that distance of an octave and not keep it locked for too long.
Okay.
So, but it's easier. We talk about all this stuff in context of literature. Do you want to work on Bach today?
Yes. And the other one, just so you know, the other thing I'm working on is the second movement of the Haydn Sonata in E flat. And that one isn't as far along.
I love that. Hmm.
That one.
Nice. Whatever happened to the Spring Sonata you were going to play with a violin player?
That's next after I learned this stuff.
Okay.
So I was already working on these things, and I want to finish them and perform them. And I could actually start Spring Sonata now,
Mhm.
but I wanted to finish these things because they've been pestering me for decades, and I want to finish them and do them well and play them and enjoy them and then move on.
Great.
But if you think I can start the Spring Sonata now, I will.
Uh,
Um,
honestly, It might be possible. I'd rather start with fewer things, just to
Okay.
see how we're moving along, and then we can reassess. So instead of my lessons are 50 minutes these days because I can't do 1 hour anymore.
Okay.
But we can chat for a little bit and then start. It's fine. It's going for longer than 15 minutes is too much. Do you want to play the prelude for me, or as
Yes.
the prelude as you can? And I'm going to put it up on the score, so on the screen, so we can both see it. I have some of these um, scores that I found electronically are not the best scores, but it's good enough. We can let's see.
I'm gonna play it from memory, and I'll probably be nervous and anxious
Of
because,
course we will.
but I'm just gonna go from memory because I
Try,
know it.
try to play. Can you play through it, Ruth?
Yes. You want me to play it by heart?
Sure. If you can get through it once, so I can see what you're doing, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Nice work. This is really good. Lots and lots of good things in there, Ruth. Okay, before you play the fugue, let's talk about this before I forget a few things.
Okay.
It sounds to me, have you done Zoom before?
No.
Okay, so um, is it possible for you to change one of the settings?
I think so.
Okay, so if you look at the Zoom bar somewhere on the top of your screen, probably, I'm not sure, there should be a microphone icon.
Uh,
Or if you want, I mean, you can also change it for next time. It's just the sound is interesting. There's a setting on the under the microphone icon. If there's a little arrow, and if I click on it, if you're looking at my screen, at the computer screen, you should be able to get to this screen right here. You see it on the screen?
yeah, and what do you need me to do once I get there?
So where it says microphone input level, there's a box that says automatically adjust microphone volume. Make sure that once it is unchecked, it should not be checked.
Okay.
Was it checked?
I'm not seeing the screen. Let me get Brian in here. He can help.
Sure.
Wants to turn off that setting that says automatically adjust the microphone. And the screen
It's
doesn't.
already off.
Hi, Karen, Brian. So
Hello.
on the under the microphone settings, there's a box.
Yeah,
If you click that one, it creates this, it compresses things. And if you leave it unchecked, it's easier for me to hear everything.
because it won't be constantly raising and lowering the volume.
That's right.
Select a microphone. Audio settings.
Hmm. And make sure this little box here is unchecked.
There, it's unchecked.
Okay, do you have enough volume, or do you need a little more? Or
In my experience, if you keep it right around 75%, that should be plenty. You don't want to jam it all the way up because then it's too much, but 75% would be fine.
you don't want clipping?
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
No problem. Got it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so Ruth, lots of good things in here. Let's talk about the style of the piece, of course, is a toccata, right? And your tempo is nice and lively. Ultimately, do you know how fast you want to play this?
I thought around 80. Does that sound normal?
Let me see. I have my metronome right here. Let me get 80 for you. So here's 80. So 80 would be. Right?
Right.
Okay, there's definitely a decent tempo. I'm not sure if you can see the score here. It says 130 something crazy. That might be too much, but we could certainly go a little bit faster. Ultimately, I think something like maybe 100, just so we can have some.
Okay.
I think that's doable. I think that's an achievable goal.
Okay.
And I think it has that a little bit more of a drive and vitality. Once you get up there to the 90s, hundreds, maybe 110, something like that.
Okay.
So the score that I'm using, of course, like I said, is not the best score. It's what I have available here in Mexico. So, but I would say not to what Czerny. This is the Czerny edition. He's putting an accent on the first and the third beat, right? And
Right.
you can just ignore that completely. For learning and especially for the quickness, for as quickly or as fast as we want to play this piece, it's really important that we take the eighth note as the beat unit, not the quarter note, not the half note, but the eighth note.
Okay.
So the trick, as far as I'm concerned, for relaxation especially, is to practice. In other words, we're going to have sets of 2 16th notes with slurs. So you have a 2-note slur and another 2-note slur on the first beat alone, like this. Second beat. Right? So when you're practicing early on, I wouldn't practice because that's not going to lead to relaxation. I think you need to practice putting an accent on every eighth note. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And what that does when you start playing faster, Yeah, it frees up your wrist, right? I mean, when you get used to the two note slurs, this is what's happening with my wrist. And this is what we want always. We never want to have a locked wrist. And you want your wrist participating, right? Your fingers are great, by the way. Your fingers are awesome. But I would like to see a little bit more wrist in there. And then once we have those two note slurs engaged per beat, then maybe we can transcend to the quarter note. And it'll look like this. Putting an accent on every quarter note. And then ultimately, once we do all that, then we can do what Cherny wants.
So beginning that process, you just set the metronome slowly and practice with the slow metronome?
Not sure that you really need a metronome for that. I mean, I would say maybe at this tempo, about maybe 60 to the 60. Actually, since we're doing eighth notes, why don't we just do the double the count? Let's do 100 or 120 here, which is going to sound like this. And making sure that you're really using a lot of wrist motion on the two note slurs. Would you try that for me? Maybe you can tap with your left hand while you do the right hand. Tap the eighth note.
Sorry.
Let's go a little slower. How about this tempo? It's funny, we learn things with hands together. We can't play the hands separately, huh?
I'm going to use the music.
Sure, of course, absolutely, you should. Okay, can I stop here? That's really good. That's really good. Now, can we exaggerate the two notes a little bit more? I want more on the first note and less on the second note, like this. Accent, accent, accent. Tap, tap, tap. That's much better. That's much better. Okay, so that's um, by far the most important way to practice this piece initially. You know, at least in my experience. There are other ways of practicing, of course, and because ultimately your wrist is going to be doing some of is going to be carrying some of the action, but your fingers also need to be lightning fast. In order to get the fingers to really do their job well, um, it's also a good idea to practice staccato with finger action only, like this. And in order to do that, you need to focus on the 16th note impulse. So when we're doing the two note slurs with the wrist, we're doing one, and two, and we're doing one and two and one and two. When you practice staccato, you really want to focus on the 16th note, so you'll count one E and the one E and the two E and the one E and the two E. And the two of them might sound contradictory, but they're actually complementary of each other if you practice both of those approaches. Would you try the staccato for me, like this? One E and the two E and the. That's really good, Ruth. That's really good. Would you mind playing the same thing but loud, like forte, staccato forte? Okay, that's good. Your pinky or your fourth finger is being a little longer. Try to make sure the first note is really short, 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 short. Every note short, 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 short. That's really good. Okay, question. How does the hand feel?
Much better.
Okay, good.
It usually gets tight after like 2 measures, and then it stays tight through the whole song.
Right. So, I don't know if you can see from my hand. I'm not only doing finger staccato. I'm also using a little bit of wrist staccato like this. So it's a little bit of finger action, finger pulling like this, but also a little bit of wrist. Combination of both,
Wow.
right? And always forte, always very, very incisive, incisive. Yet da da da.
That's harder to do with the
It's
rest.
harder to do. Now I'm gonna get picky now. The C natural, if you look at the screen, the C, C, A flat, B natural, C, C. There's a little melody there, right? And then the top voice is usually the melody. The rest is just accompaniment. So when you're practicing staccato, every note has to be incisive, but the top note has to be more, and it has to be really short. When you get to the A flat, that sounds a little bit like your pinky's getting a little lazy. So make sure tell your pinky to work hard and really incisive. Da, 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 yet, da, 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 da. But not so much on the accompaniment. You don't have to blurt out every note on the accompaniment, just the top.
Okay.
Try it again.
You still want it staccato?
Staccato, please. Yeah, 16th note impulses, please. 16th notes. Short. That's right. Short. Okay, that's really good. That's really good. I'm not sure if you noticed, but in some of them, when you get to the second system, you started playing a long note on the thumb. For this exercise, everything has to be short and incisive. No long notes, no articulation. We're not trying to play super musically here. We're trying to teach our fingers how to activate really fast and how to. These are actually called quick release exercises, and they're for speed of the fingers. This is for like filigree stuff. You want your fingers to be, lightning fast, and this is how you get there.
Okay.
The other exercise, the eighth note impulses, is for you to free up your wrist and not have your wrist locked in. A lot of people will lock the wrist on this piece because it's just there's so much tension in the piece, and they forget that the wrist is a secret to unlocking. Right? If you give your wrist the task of accenting every eighth note, then it won't lock anymore.
Okay, I was complaining to Rachel. I played it for her,
Mhm.
and I said, this piece feels to me like I take a deep breath and I run a marathon, and there's
Yes.
no stopping until the end. And then I get to the end and I go, oh, thank God. She said, yeah, Mom, it seems like that. You don't seem to enjoy yourself. You seem like you're just like, oh God, And I want to get rid of that because I love the piece.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the character is a little frantic, right? The character of the piece is a little frantic.
Yeah.
But using your wrist is really going to help you. And
Okay.
I would start with, the tempo that we have right here for the 16th note, for the 8th note. For the two note slurs, I would say 110 to the 8th note. And for the other one, if you want to take I'm not sure if your metronome can do subdivisions. Like I have this metronome which is called tempo, which I like a lot, and I can press on the note value, and it'll give me a subdivided beat like this. That's triplets. We don't want triplets. We want four. Sorry,
Yeah.
and we want maybe.
Okay.
60 with a subdivided beat is a good idea. Or if you don't have the subdivided option, then you would multiply by 4. It would take you to 240, and it'll sound like this. Here's 240. Right?
Okay.
So 240 for the 16 notes. Impulse is really staccato. You know, every single note, very incisive, short, a little bit of finger, a little bit of wrist, both, and about 110 for the two note slurs.
Okay, that's super helpful.
Okay, so that's just the technical approach. Now, the harmony in this piece is so phenomenal. I'm sure you agree with me. The harmony is just absolutely mesmerizing. So, and one mistake that I hear a lot of people doing when you get to the second system. So they're playing forte in a place where they're supposed to be playing piano. This edition is actually proof of it. Right? So I don't know if you noticed this forzandi that Czerny decided to insert in here. And he wants you to play piano on a chord where there's tension. Listen to this chord. If I play the triads by themselves without the 16 notes, just the harmony will sound like this. Etc. Right? Some of them are triads, and some of them are seventh chords. The way I understand this piece, by the way, everything I'm saying, of course, I don't need to repeat that anymore, but everything I'm telling you, these are my own ideas. So somebody else might have a different idea. The triads, I think, require to be played less, and the seventh chords require to be played more. Why? Because there's more tension in them. So I would do the exact opposite of what this edition says. I would play softly here, and I would play sforzandi in the measures where there's a seventh chord. So I'm not sure if you've analyzed this piece. Being the great composer that you are, you probably have.
I think I have the same edition. Oh no, I don't. But I'm seeing much of the same things.
So I would just play forte. I mean, I like the idea of contrasting, loud with soft in this section, but I would do it opposite. I would play softly here, and then loud here, soft, loud, soft, loud, and then it gets interesting here. Another seventh chord, right? Pretty much every time you have a seventh chord, I think there's more of a need for bringing out the sound because there's more tension.
In measure 12, what kind of chord is that?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
The part that goes.
Yeah, so I see that as an A flat major triad and first inversion with some passing tones. So
Did you play that softly?
Yes, I think so. The structure there would be an A flat major triad and first inversion, right? A flat 6. The next one is a dominant seventh chord in the key of E flat major. So that one I would play a little bit more. There's more tension there, right? You notice the B, it's a B flat 7 chord is what it is. A B flat 7 with a chordal fifth in the bass. So it's. by the way, don't neglect the left hand. I would practice your hands separately at all times, and make sure you give an equal time to the right hand and the left hand. Don't practice the hands together.
Okay.
These are
I was going to ask you that. When I sit down to practice this, do I just take, let's say I have an hour to practice, do I just take the whole right hand, or do I just divide it up in, I'm going to do 4 measures and get those right?
always, I would say,
And
well, first of all, this is slightly different because you know this piece quite well already. I would say I wouldn't play the whole thing. I would play sections of maybe 8 measures and a downbeat. Why don't you start there with segments of 8 measures plus 1 beat, and make sure you feel really comfortable with those 8 measures. Um, and then, of course, depending on the time of day you're practicing, you may want to start with the sections that are the most challenging. This, for example, the presto section is really challenging.
yes, I know. I've been working for a long time on it.
All of that. And I would definitely use staccato all the way here. Right?
Okay.
Using the 8th note also maybe, or the 16th note value. Use very quick values for this early on, so that every note has a lot of energy. And at some point, you know what I would like to see? I don't want to change your fingerings because you've played this piece for a long time, and changing the fingering might be a pain. But unless there's something that is like really, if I see something that's maybe hindering you, do me a favor, if at all possible. Could you take a picture of the score? Not right now, but later. Take a picture of the score, and I want to see the fingers that you're using.
Okay.
And then I can make some suggestions. Are you following did you write your own fingering, or are you following the fingering that's in the edition? What are
I
you?
did my own actually, and you did some of it very early on. At MJC, I studied this piece for a little while,
Mhm.
and you did some of it, but I did most of it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'll be glad to do that.
Sure. I would love to see your fingers just so I can. So, for example, in the presto section, I love playing the thumb on the F sharp. Let me show you what I have. I have 3, 4, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, and I play thumb on the F sharp. I think playing thumb on the F sharp is really important because it allows you to pivot more, right? Don't play the second finger on the F sharp. You see that?
I
So
did
play,
have the thumb on the F sharp.
good for you. That's awesome. I love it. And then also, don't forget to practice. Remember what we used to call this? We call this bumpy road. The two note slurs. Accent, 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 accent. Accent on with every 2 notes, or the 2 note slurs with the rest. Um, yeah, this section is no different than the toccata, the main section of the toccata. It's just faster, So the staccato has to be really clean, like a whistle, and you have to have really good fingers there. Make sure you're comfortable with your fingers there, and if there's something that's not comfortable, we.
There's a place when I take a picture, I'll circle it. There's a place where I'm really uncomfortable with the fingering that I have, and that's measure 32.
Can you play it for me just slowly once? The 32, the mission number 32. I
I'm
don't,
just going to jump in at the beginning. Well, maybe I can do that.
just so I can identify it, because I don't have measure numbers.
This one.
Now, okay.
I have to start. Can I start at the beginning of the presto?
Sure, go ahead.
And it won't be very presto.
Not,
here.
Yeah.
That measure is where.
The right hand has 153, then 143, then 153. Excuse me. So for the third beat, you could play a 1-4 or you can play a 1-3, right? If you look at the screen, Ruth, for a second. On the third beat, you see that there's a 1-4 written on the score, but you could also play a 1-3 like this. 1-3-2-3.
Okay.
I like 1-3 almost as much as like 1-4, but it's very important that you play 1-5-3, not 1-5-4, right? Never 1-5-4. 1-5-4 is out of the question.
I was playing 3. That might. I mean, I was playing 4. That might be a problem. That
Oh,
might be.
absolutely. Okay, so your fingering for the second beat on the A flat should be thumb. On the F, the high F should be 5. The E flat should be 3, and the F again should be 5. 1-5-3-5. I'm talking about the previous measure on the second beat here. That should be 1-5-3-5. And then 1-3-2-3. 1-3.
I do have 1-3-2-3, and then 1-5.
1-5-3-5. 1-5-3-5. 1-5-3-5. Just continue to play 5-3 whenever possible. That is that.
Okay.
And then of course, for this section, if you know your right hand at about 90%, that's really good. Your left hand, you need to know at about 200%. Your left hand, you need to know your left hand twice as well. This is one of the things that will hinder you when you play your hands together. If one of the partners doesn't know the part, is going to drag the other partner, and the left hand here is the culprit usually. So I would, for every rep that you do with the right hand, I want you to do 2 reps with the left hand for this section. You practice it by itself. You should be able to play the left hand of the whole piece by memory by itself. That's when you know you really know.
Okay.
And that's when you know you really know your left hand material.
All right, that fingering.
But do me a favor and send me a picture anyway. I want to just give a glance to everything that you're doing and see if I can catch anything.
Okay, I will. Just
Now,
the presto section?
pardon me?
Just the presto section?
No, send me a picture of everything,
Okay.
please. Now, let's talk briefly, and we can talk some more next time on the fugue. Would you give me a taste of your? I'd like to see how you're handling maybe the first 8 bars or something. You don't know. Okay. Would you try that one more time? Same number of measures is fine.
Does it sound all right?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. I like everything. You're so musical. My God, I forget how musical. You're such a musical player. It's really, really nice. Did you ever wonder about tempo choices here as well?
I did. In fact, that's one of the things I had written down to ask you about because the tempo that's marked here is 80, and I
Yeah.
know I'm not there yet. But
By the way, this is not Bach's tempo, right? You know that. Someone
yeah,
else.
there seems to be some argument, at least on the internet, about
Absolutely.
how
Oh yeah.
fast to play these.
Bach did not write any of these tempo markings. He didn't have a way of doing it. There was no metronome.
Who
So,
did?
the editors,
Oh, okay.
the people who came after him, Czerny, for example, is one of them. The edition that I have here is Czerny. So, you know, there is no ultimate word on the tempo, by the way. If you go to YouTube and you do a quick search of this fugue, and if you find 10 versions, everyone is probably going to have a slightly different tempo.
They do.
The idea is to pick the tempo that you are comfortable with, that you like, you know, based on a number of things, right? Based on the character, number one, right? And also based on the fact, if you're playing this fugue by itself and it's the only piece of the program, that would be one thing, right? But if you're playing this fugue along with other pieces, then you might want to have some variety in your tempo that might, enable you or inspire you to play a faster tempo than if you were playing it by itself. I don't know. Personally, I think I kind of like this tempo a little slower, and I love that syncopation. Yadam bum. I like making a big deal out of it every time, and then when it comes back, when you play that tempo, you can feel that syncopation so well. Um, and also, it has to do with how fast you want to play the first movement, right? If you want to play the prelude at this tempo, then maybe you want to play. So there's some contrast. But if we're gonna get to 90 or 100, which is all of this, if we're gonna play that tempo, then certainly there's room for that tempo on the fugue, a little bit slower. And I think you can just hear the voices so nicely at that slower tempo. But that's just me, by the way. I'm not trying to sell you on this tempo at all.
I choose usually to do things a little slower because I'm less panicky that way. Um, and I think that makes it sound better when I'm less panicked.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the prelude, when I get going too fast, I panic uh, and it turns into a marathon or a
Yeah.
sprint. And
But but I think you'll be surprised with the prelude once we start incorporating your wrists a little bit more, and once your fingers are firing really quickly with the staccato training, you're gonna see how the prelude is not as nearly as challenging as you might think otherwise.
okay.
Okay.
So
Um,
then if I'm doing that one quickly, I wouldn't mind doing the fugue a little bit slower.
yeah. And by the way, I mean, the tempo that you played is perfectly fine. The character that you're infusing on the prelude it's great, especially if we can really hear the harmony, right? The one thing I never get from I've heard this piece many many times in competitions, and I've heard lots of recordings. The harmony never comes through when people are playing this piece. They're not listening harmonically, right? And I know you do listen harmonically because you understand the harmony and you understand tension. So if we can bring out the tension, we can bring out the seventh chords, and we can bring out the resolution, then it really doesn't matter what tempo you play it because the music is there. You're playing musically, right?
That's right. It's Bach after all.
Exactly. Bach is it. I mean, he's the father, right?
Right.
So maybe next time we can start backwards with a few. When is your recital date for this? Do you have a recital date?
I haven't set one. Um, I'm just working on this to get it done. When I feel like I'm getting close to done, then I'm going to set my recital date.
Okay, good. So we're not under any.
No, there's no pressure.
Good. Okay, wonderful. Yeah.
This is for joy. It's work, but it's for joy.
Yeah,
And the recital will be for joy too.
wonderful. Okay, and then so you want to work on the Bach Prelude and Fugue. You want to continue working on the Debussy, the waltz, the Romantique.
Yes.
Okay. What else
And
is on the program?
the Haydn Sonata, the second movement.
Only the second movement, or
What?
is it first and second movement, or is it just the second movement?
I did the first movement at my last recital, so I want to do the second movement.
Mhm.
And the challenge of that, it's the adagio one.
Mhm.
It's in a singing style. It's and the melody has to soar above the rest of it, which I have trouble with. And then he put a lot of rich ornamentation in there, which
Mhm.
I have trouble with.
Okay, we can definitely work on that. I'm gonna need the which number is the Haydn? Would you take a screenshot of the first page and also send it to me
I will.
along with the fingering for the Bach? That would help me so I can get a score. And
I will do that.
I'm gonna need to download a score for the Haydn. Okay, and you also were talking about some 20th century pieces.
Yeah, I haven't picked one yet, but I looked at some of the things that you sent me.
Did you find the Peter Dvorak piece, the Etuda?
Yes, I did.
What do you think?
Um, it was challenging to me, but that's good. Um, I kind of like that. Um, is that late? Is that late 20th century or early 20th century?
Um, I would gather. Let me see if I can find it. I have the scribe. As a matter of fact, one of my students just before you was playing is learning it because I love that little piece. It's in the popular style. Right? It's not really a classical or concert style. It's more like a popular. There's a lot of syncopation in there, and but I just love the harmony. It's beautiful. It's just such a nice piece. So well written. Let me find it. Peter Dvorak. See if I can find a year. Yetuda. Um, 1 second. And I think he's Czech, of course, right? He's a Czechoslovakian. Tuda number 3. I don't see a date in here. You know who gave me this?
Okay, if you don't know, that's okay.
One of my former students a long time ago brought this piece to me, and I said, "I'm okay. I'm gonna need a copy." uh, do you remember by any chance the name Martin Lanik?
I don't.
Martin, when he wanted to study the piano, he was learning all this literature and stuff, and then he disappeared, and he came back maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. He showed up in Modesto, and he has become he worked on a PhD in psychology, and he does corporate psychology, and he's earning something crazy like $1 million every year or something. And he charges a lot of big fees for consulting big corporations and finding CEOs. So he lives in a stratosphere now. And I had dinner with him. He had just turned 30, I think, 35.
Oh, wow.
He flew to Switzerland to buy himself a horse. Anyway, that's the guy who gave me this piece. That was a long story. That was completely unnecessary, by the way. But I like Martin.
I love hearing things like that.
He's a good kid. He's a good kid. I like him a lot. And so I would say maybe 1970s, 1980s, probably,
Okay.
probably.
I did nothing more than kind of look around and listen to them. I didn't try playing because I don't have the music for all of them. You sent some of them, so I kind of fiddled with them for a little while.
Yeah,
But yeah, I would be glad to pick that one and do it,
sure.
especially if you recommend it.
Of course, absolutely, yeah. And I love that little piece.
Is it different from the WC?
Oh, it's very different from. Oh my God, yes. No, Debussy has his own style. Oh no, I
Okay.
mean nothing comes close to Debussy. Debussy is maybe before Bach, sometimes maybe after Bach, my favorite composer. I don't know.
Do you know that this is the first piece of his that I've ever played?
Debussy?
Yeah.
Oh, you need to play a lot more. Yeah, yeah.
So
The
yeah,
children.
that piece particularly, the valse, is really Chopin-esque.
You need to play both. You need to play both arabesques for sure, and you need to learn the children's corner suite
Okay.
for sure. I mean, those
All right.
both of those are incredible. Everything he writes is beautiful, but those pieces in particular are good.
Okay.
All right. So is this a good amount for today?
Yes, it is. How do you want payment? Do you want me to give you my card?
Let me stop recording here for a second so we can talk about other things that are.